intros. It's only been like fucking 5 months since we've done an intro. Welcome everybody into
well
Big Phacts. We're finally here together, myself and AA Ron, down in, I assume, back in North Carolina, right?
Yeah. It's we're pretty outside, bud. It's getting a little cool finally. It's not. I'm not sweating my balls off at 5 a.m. It's real nice.
Yeah, it's, you got some time off, seasonal job. That's the perks. I work 10 hours a day every day, but listen, man, we all can't get the same draws.
Well,
how are you, bud?
Let's do this real quick because so we stopped doing this in the beginning of June, end of May,
so. Sounds right.
of June. And we both had shit that we had to focus on, and in that time frame, we've both done very well. We just
absolutely
put our head down and made some shit happen in our lives, and both of our lives have changed. And I just want to clap it up for us real quick.
Let's give ourselves a round of applause.
A little pat on the back and go back
like
into
that.
Big Facts,
I like that. Now, we've got a lot of shit that we have to talk about. So to catch everybody up, obviously, I've had my youngest since before we stopped, so she's almost 6 months old now, and your business is fucking booming. I took over the store that I'm running. Our personal lives have definitely gotten busier. But we've had so many fucking things happen over the summer, man. And it's like, I mean, I know that we talked on Facebook and on social media about some of the shit that was going on during the NBA playoffs and Ben Simmons refusing to dunk a basketball and all the nonsense that we went through at the end of the season. We had so many things happen between. I want to start with football. It's a football Sunday for us. I know you want to go over some spreads and some games, but before we get to that, I have some things I need to say. I listened to you and the boys from Catching Three, and I have some things I need to put on the record.
Yeah.
So I listen to a lot of sports radio. You lived in Philly. It's basically all we fucking listen to because the radio's so bad. So I really think that Nick Sirianni might be a real head coach, bro. And I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of concerning me, the level of calm that I've got in him, because I've seen so many things where I go, that could have been done better. But then I have that it's his second NFL game as a head coach.
Well, what I'm
saying?
Let's put last week into perspective, right? A winnable game, right? But not one you necessarily expect a bunch of young guys with a first year, like this is your job starting quarterback and a first year head coach and a complete roster and management, not management overhaul, but coaching overhaul. Obviously, and then Sirianni gets up to the press conference at the end of this, and he's like, yeah, of course, like when it doesn't work, I want those plays back, and looking back on them, and I'm going to hate what I called. But he wasn't like, oh yeah, we ran that, like the bullshit answer you get from every coach, right? We ran that in practice. We felt good about it, and then we just didn't execute. He goes up there, is like, "Yeah, I want all those plays back. Of course, I want them all back. They didn't work." The Philly special play, it sits wrong with me because I can
understand
why he called it, because if it worked, everybody would have been like,
this is the man, right?
Great, But I'm impressed with Sirianni. I'm impressed with how everybody plays for him. You can tell there's more continuity amongst the team in the locker room. There's guys that are being plugged in that didn't get any time on the field last year. The wide receivers, I mean, there's plays that they still can't get open sometimes to beat their man, but the margin of how much better they are and how much better they look just getting the ball into their hands and allowing them to make plays is way better than last year. And I'm extremely impressed. Like, we're not even talking about the defense. The scheme that Gannon's running,
and the best part about that is Jonathan Gannon is my least favorite part about this team right now. And the defense is the best part of the team right now. Yeah. I see a lot of we're going to see how Brandon Graham going down affects the team. It's going to affect them, obviously. I mean, that guy is the leader. I know we all look Fletcher Cox's way, but Brandon Graham is that guy. Mm-hmm. This is going to be where we see if Jonathan Gannon is an NFL defensive coordinator. I mean, when your leader on the field goes down, and he's down, a ruptured Achilles, he ain't coming back this year. Hopefully, knock on all the wood in the world, wherever I can fucking find some, this isn't career ending, because it happens at his age.
Yeah.
What I think this is going to prove is that Jonathan Gannon has the ability on the defensive side of the ball, what we've been seeing out of Nick Sirianni. I mean, and it's not just Nick Sirianni. I have to give Jalen Hurts the credit he deserves. Jalen Hurts is a young guy who has really only been in the position to win in his entire life. He's facing his first level of adversity right now with a team that has 6, 7, maybe 8 win expectations, and really thinks that he can take this team over the top. And between him and Nick Sirianni, they are kind of taking control of what this team's identity is on offense. I will say now, I said this when the draft happened after I watched some tape, but I'll say it again for you. So you're welcome before I say it. Devonta Smith was the right pick. Devonta Smith is, in my opinion, I know that we've got a lot of late round guys who knows what they blossom into. There's a DK Metcalf in every draft, but Devonta Smith, as of right now, was the best receiver in this draft class. I don't really think second place is that close. You know, Jamar Chase is going public saying the ball don't have stripes and it's bigger. I can't get down with that type of a cat. But I think that I heard you guys talking when you had Catching 3 on about Micah Parsons and what he's doing for Dallas. And you're not wrong. Micah Parsons is an animal. But I think about what this team would look like if you didn't have a Devonta Smith, who is a route runner by nature. That is his nature, is to run a route the right way. Look at what Jalen Reagor's been these last couple of games. Jalen Reagor has clearly, and again, it's not just the fact you have Devonta Smith. You've got a good coaching staff around him, it seems, right now, and a good leader at quarterback. But having a guy like Devonta Smith where that shit is natural, where these kids will see him, but he doesn't have to try. Devonta Smith doesn't attempt to run a route. Devonta Smith wakes up in the morning and runs routes to the fucking fridge for a bowl of cereal. Devonta Smith is a route runner. That's what he is. And it was the right pick for this team to build on. And now they're going to have to start working over the next 2-3 years to replace some of these old guys on defense. But you've got enough gas in the tank and enough youth with Josh Sweat, which was a great signing a couple days ago. I think that this team could be a 7 or an 8 win team. You know, if they won this division this year, I wouldn't be blown away by it.
Yeah, and that brings us to this Dallas game, because this is the first division game. And again, you know, the Washington, we talked about Ryan Fitzpatrick at the beginning of the year, just because he's come in here over the past 5 years, and it didn't matter what team he was on, and he just torched us. So you're like, damn it. Like, I know he's not a top 10 quarterback. He's probably not a top 15 quarterback, but he absolutely kills us, and I don't want to play him twice a year. And then you thought that the defensive line and just the defense in general over there was going to be the best defense in the division, and they're not right now. The Eagles are. You thought the Giants might have a great defense, and they just look abysmal as an entire football team. And I thought they were going to be bad this year. I thought they played above expectations this year, but I didn't know they were just going to look like they hated playing football, and that's kind of what's happening over there.
Well, we also got to mention, because we said this at the time that it happened, what the fuck are you doing drafting Kadarius Toney? What are you doing?
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy.
I mean, again, it's like the Bengals with Jamar Chase. I heard you guys talking the other night about it. How you don't draft Penei Sewell, who is, I don't give a fuck what anybody tells me.
He's
two games into his career, that kid's going to be a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt in my mind.
And Jared Goff looks good because he's getting protection. I mean, there was time. I mean, they played the Packers last week, and I watched a little bit of the who they played the first week. They still put up almost 30 points in week 1, even though they lost the game. But the defense over there is really what needs work. The offense is actually looking decent on the Detroit Lions side. Jared Goff looks pretty good. TJ Hawkinson's coming out a little bit, and Penei Sewell hasn't allowed a sack in 3 years, dating back to like being a freshman in college.
Right.
So
it's all these things that we see, man. Like I've never in my life seen, I think, an entire offseason play out the way that it looked. You know, sometimes you look at Kadarius Toney or Jamar Chase and go, what a dumb move. You needed a tackle. And then, you know, that guy comes out and has fucking 1,200 yards and 100 receptions his first year. Listen, bro, Jamar Chase will be a good wide receiver just because he's physically gifted. It's impossible for him to be bad.
Right.
But like I think about guys like the kid, I can never remember his fucking name, Dorial Green Beckham, who spent a cup of coffee with the Philadelphia Eagles, who was, you know, a big 6'4", monster hands, all the intangibles, but couldn't play wide receiver, man. And that's, I fear, what Jamar Chase could be. And I'm saying it out loud. I was a trade up, sell the farm, get Jamar Chase. That was the guy you needed, and it was fucking Devonta Smith the whole time, bro.
Well, it was nice not to be able to have to give up assets and still feel like you got the best wide receiver in the draft. And I'm not saying I think Devonta Smith's going to be better than Jamar Chase, but I'm not saying going to go, you know, right now and say that he's going to have a better career. Jamar Chase looks fine right now, but we'll see how it plays out. And I'm happy we got to sit at the pick and trade back and still get the guy that we wanted. It's a great move. Not to mention, you might not have to pick a quarterback in next year's draft, and you might have 3 first-rounders. Carson Wentz starting with 2 sprained ankles today, which is fucking great. It's incredible. So
he is the shittiest man. I think about this, right? We're going through turmoil as Philadelphians right now. I mean, we just spent the last year of the Carson Wentz drama, and now we're fucking walking into the Ben Simmons drama, which I will lead into once we get to basketball, what I believe is going to be the upcoming Joel Embiid drama. We have fucking suffered, man. I really hope that Devonta Smith's connection with Jalen Hurts gives us enough to watch and enjoy. That we don't have to sit here in misery every fucking week because
Yeah.
we know that Ben Simmons and Clutch Sports are going to hold out, and we know that Daryl Morey's not going to fold his fucking hand, and
No.
the Sixers season is going to start and end in the same type of turmoil. And I just want one year where if I gotta have if the Flyers suck, I'm cool with it, But the Phillies, who are a 500 baseball team, but threaten you and show you that they go on 8-game winning streaks, and now they're gonna fucking take over the NL and they're gonna come up, and then all of a sudden they get swept by the second worst team in baseball. Yeah. I'm so tired of the fucking up and down of Philadelphia sports, bro. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's positive on most ends for the Eagles. By the way, did you see the report this morning? Lyle Collins trying to bribe the so this is the story. He's the right tackle for the Cowboys.
Right. He got suspended for PEDs or some shit, didn't he?
He gets suspended for 5 games. They appeal it and get it down to 2 games, but in the appeal hearing, it's put out that he tried to bribe the guy that was taking his his sample, right? So then the judge is like, well, fuck you, man. You already won this 2 games and now you're appealing. And so fuck you. It's 5 games again. And now, so because he tried to bribe it, and it's for something, apparently it might be weed related, which now the NFL has pulled back on really suspending guys for weed related stuff. Sure. So it wouldn't have been a big deal for him if he got 1 or 2 games because he popped for something, and now he's out for 5. Brings us into the Dallas game. We talked about this line. You feel like it's an Eagles line.
For sure.
I think the game plan is going to be drawn up enough to keep the game close enough regardless, where I like them to either cover the spread or win outright. It's a field goal game. You can't get into a shootout with Dallas because I think Dak, if you want to do that, Dak clearly is the better quarterback right now. I don't care what anybody's rankings say. I don't care that Jalen Hurts hasn't really been turning the ball over. When I watch Dak Prescott this year, I hate to say it, he looks like a
bro, he's what is this, year 5? Year 4, year 5? Of course he looks better than Jalen Hurts.
But it's impressive. It's impressive to watch it after the type of injury he had and watch him in week 1. And I
struggle with that. I heard you say this while I was sitting in my fucking desk selling cars the other night while you were on here with Catching 3. What's impressive? He has, I mean, not even arguably, there's no question, unquestionably the greatest assembly of pieces around him. He has a top 5 O-line when healthy and not suspended. I understand the injuries and the Eagles go through it every year. But he has more weapons than any quarterback that I can recall.
It's just the speed at which he makes the decisions. They're
easy decisions.
I understand, but who's the last quarterback that didn't have lingering effects going into the season, at least for some part of the season, with that type of injury? I'll tell you who it is if you can think of it off the top of your head.
Quarterback?
Yeah,
with that type of injury.
Broken leg, torn Achilles, blown out knee, whatever the case. The last guy and I'm not making a comparison, but we saw Wentz. We're seeing a little bit with Burrow. Tom Brady's the only guy that went right back into the season and didn't look like he missed anything, and even he for a couple games didn't look quite as good. So it was just impressive.
But Tom Brady didn't have fucking CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper.
I understand, but he also was going up against the Bucs, who had the top defense last year, and he shredded them a little bit.
Yeah, but look, and this isn't shit on Dak Prescott. Dakota Prescott is a good quarterback in this league. He's not worth $40 million. He's not a top 10 guy. He is the best quarterback in the NFC East right now, if that's what you're trying to draw the comparison to. But when you're the tallest midget at a circus, you're still a midget, is all I'm trying to say. I'm trying to keep it relative, and then you say some shit like Tom Brady in the same sentence.
I said I'm not making the comparison. I'm not making the comparison.
But we also don't know about what this lingering effect is, bro, because he's got so many weapons and he's able to get rid of the ball so fast. Until I have to see Dak Prescott move for a game. I was listening this morning when I was going out to get coffee. They're talking about how Tampa Bay and the Rams are both kind of similar teams, kind of meeting each other right now, where there's not a lot of pass rush on their quarterback. Matt Stafford is not good under pressure, nor is Tom Brady really. And right now, this is going to be the best defensive front either team has faced so far in the first couple of games. Dak Prescott has not been under pressure. He hasn't had to run around. I don't know how good that ankle is because he hasn't had to do what he did last year. Now listen, props. Right now, he's a pocket passer. And a lot of guys that have his skill set can't become pocket passers.
He looks good doing it, yeah.
And I give that to him. But again, I have to look at that in context. If Carson Wentz never tore the ACL and had 3 fucking number 1 wide receivers, an above average tight end, and a fucking top 5 running back, we're probably saying that Carson Wentz looks really fucking good.
Yeah,
So
and by
this
the way,
is-
we keep
this is just the
referring back to
context.
Zeke as that, but the reality of Zeke right now is he actually hasn't been a top 5 running back for probably a little over 2 seasons.
Until he stops getting paid, that's what everybody's gonna call him. That just is what it is.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley's also been kind of disappointing this year, bro.
Well-
this is not a, and this is what causes me concern. Let's jump into this Monday night game with the Eagles, and we'll work backwards. I do believe this is an Eagles line. I said it in the comments of the video the other night. The Eagles win this game outright. There's no question in my mind. I think it's a touchdown win, but it is going over. That needs to be, while I agree with you that it's not going to be a Kansas City versus Tampa Bay just fucking firing match, it's going to go over. This is a 35-31 game. This is a 31-24. This game is going over. There's no way it doesn't. There's too much on the line right now in a wide open division where Dallas knew coming in that they were supposed to be the end all be all. There's no doubt we're winning this division. And now the Eagles, a couple games into the season, look good enough that there's again, the rivalry gets stoked. But there's nobody on planet Earth that's convincing me that after 2 weeks, Dak Prescott's going to take this Dallas Cowboys team to 12 wins and a playoff berth and win games. But you're also not going to convince me that the Eagles are not as good as what we're looking at. This is a fun game because this is really the LA Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are an NFC title game preview right now today. Tomorrow is the last game of the season as we try to figure out who the fuck is going to win this division is Dallas versus Philadelphia. I think they're that close to each other.
Let's talk about this and then get into the game too. Dallas right now could very easily be 0-2. They won by the skin of their teeth last week on a last-second field goal. And to be honest with you, against the Chargers, I know they're an up-and-coming – it was against the Chargers, right? An up-and-coming team, but still not overly impressive as a team to me right now. So they go over there and they barely win that football game. Tony Pollard's taken now snaps from Zeke, and there's a couple things they have to figure out. The right tackle's out. Keneal Harry, their linebacker / safety's out. So they have a couple injuries, which leads us to the Eagles' injuries as well. Brandon Graham's gone for the year, so you're looking for Josh Sweat, you're looking for Ryan Kerrigan, you're looking for Derek Barnett to step up and have some bigger roles in the defensive line and get some pressure on Dak. We also have Brandon Brooks out, which I'm not excited that Brandon Brooks out.
But I am. I can't wait to see Landon Dickerson.
Almost become an expectation that he's going to be, and Landon Dickerson's ready to play, and I'm looking forward to watching him maul people.
I can't wait.
But Jordan Mailata also on the left side is a huge loss. I don't know if you saw any breakdown of film last week. I was watching Baldy a little bit just because I do watch him sometimes when he's breaking down linemen.
Sure.
And he just did such a great job on Bosa last week. I know he got close to Jalen Hurts a couple times, but for a guy in his first season being named the starting left tackle, going up against the guy who might end up leading the league in sacks this year on a line that has players all over it. So like they had their hands full. So he had to go one-on-one with Bosa almost all day and held up the way he held up. It's incredible. And we got him. I mean, I don't think he's going to be an injury-prone guy. It's unfortunate that he had an issue. This is a guy that played rugby. He's as tough as they come. He works out hard. He's a moose. Like, their smaller guys are not going to be hurting this guy. So I'm excited. We stole him. I think it was, 4 years, $60 million. I mean, that's stealing a left tackle that might end up being a top 5 left tackle in the league.
Yeah, and you drafted in the 7th round. I mean, that's the thing. You find the diamonds in the rough, and that's what's necessary. Listen, man, I think it's kind of a blessing that Mailata's down right now this early in the season, that he needs a game off just to rehab the knee a little. If you are going to think that you're going to make a run as the Philadelphia Eagles, which, again, if you win your division, anything can happen. That's why the phrase is any given Sunday. Is it likely? No, but Nick fucking Foles won a Super Bowl against Tom Brady. Anything can happen at any time. If you are going to really believe that you're going to compete, you do have a couple of glaring holes. You have no veteran leadership in the wide receiver group at all, which, again, is not a big deal in Game 3, but in Week 16, Week 17, the wild card week, that's when veteran leadership matters. Your linebacking core is better, but it's still not good. Steven Nelson's played well. Darius Slay's played well.
They both played really well. You've seen Slay's numbers against the guys he's been
Bro,
incredible.
he's
and then
been
Nelson
great.
on the other side has been the one of the best complementary number 2 corners I've seen since we had Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown.
I'm with you. I agree.
Nice to see one guy on one side be locked down and the other guy just not fuck it up. It's
right.
Nice.
Very, very, very different type of corners, but it works for what we have to do with this defense. Now, again, I see a lot of potential, but you need something. And if Andre Dillard can come in against Dallas, who does have a couple of pass rushers, I mean, Dallas's defense is nothing to fucking, get scared at because their secondary is still trash. Yeah. But their front seven have always been good. Micah Parsons is like a fucking robot out there. I mean, he can line up at the edge, inside, fucking linebacker.
It doesn't even make sense.
He lines up in the slot a couple of plays last week and pass rushes from the slot. He's just an animal. If Andre Dillard can look okay, you're going to get a late first-round pick for that guy. Yes. You're going to get it. Yeah. So if Andre Dillard can come in and not allow many hurries, not allow a sack, and show that he can play football, you'll be able to either pluck a pick to add into your fucking plethora that you've got next year to really fill out the holes, or you might have a veteran guy on a team that's not going to compete, that wants a shot like a Julio Jones. Obviously not now. That's already been done. But somebody you can give Andre Dillard that you don't need for and fill a hole right now. And I think that's important to watch this week. I think that's the number one thing. If you're an Eagles fan, you need to watch Andre Dillard succeed to really have faith in this team going forward.
I also think that you might have the opportunity to wait until the deadline to have to pull a trigger on something if you can get them 1 or 2 good starts, because the reality of the situation is it seems like every year there's a couple injuries on the offensive line, and they might really be able to use him for some extra depth. That being said, we watched 2 guys last year fill in and do a pretty good job, especially as rookies, where Dillard becomes expendable. So, like, you thought that maybe Herbig might end up filling in for Brooks, and they're going to plug Landon Dickerson because he's such a mauling animal and it looks like he's ready to play, right? But nobody's going to bat an eye if they're like Herbig starting. There's a lot of people that thought Herbig should probably get that start because he did so freaking good filling in last year. And Jack Driscoll filled in for Lane Johnson a couple times, and there was times he looked like a rookie, but for the most part in his first couple games, he looked pretty good. So no one's going to bat an eye if you have to trade Dillard, but just given the injuries they've had on the offensive line over the last couple years, the depth.
Well, you don't want to cut your nose off to spite your face. If you're going to need him and you don't have to pull the trigger till week 8, week 9, whatever the trade deadline is now, you don't do it until then. I agree with you. So what's your prediction for this game?
Well, for me, I don't care that they're playing in Dallas.
No, it doesn't matter. It hasn't mattered for the last 15 years.
It hasn't. So I like a 30 to 24 type of game for the Eagles. I think they can put up that amount of points. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have to show them early, though, that he wants to launch a couple deep balls because he's going to have to keep them honest. Because what I saw last week, and let's talk about this too, from what I saw last week, there was some pressure on him when he threw a couple deep balls, but there was also one where he winded up and his receiver just outran him. And he's going to have to show the Dallas Cowboys early, especially in an arena type of situation, that he can launch the ball 60 yards to Quez or Rager or Devonta Smith at any given time, just to keep those guys honest. But I do like the Eagles winning this football game. I like them running the ball a little bit more. They're going to have to do a couple more quick passes because they have some stuff on the offensive line that's untested. I'm not saying the offensive line is going to struggle, but you're plugging in a rookie and then you're plugging in Dillard, who a lot of people are kind of low on. They're gonna have to do some short quick passes, get it into the hands of the receivers. I expect the defense to play well. 30-24 Eagles.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I said 31-27 a couple of minutes ago. I agree. It's a game that goes over. There's no way it doesn't. It's in Dallas. Dak is playing well this year. They do have playmakers. And I really think that this is going to be the first moment that we all will be able to sit back, watch the outcome of a game, and go, wow, the Eagles head coach outcoached that coach. And I think that it's the perfect game to do it because Mike McCarthy is fucking terrible. I mean, I don't throw around the worst in the league very often because it's really hard to be the worst at anything in a league so big. But Mike McCarthy might be the worst head coach in the league. I mean, he is just atrocious in every sense.
It seems like a theme though. Like we know Jason Garrett's a pretty decent offensive coordinator, but as a head coach, he just never looked like he had control of the situation. And Mike McCarthy has just looked outdated since his last years in Green Bay. So it's hard to gauge like coach after coach for years for the Dallas Cowboys. Is it being run by Jerry Jones? Are they not able to make decisions? Does he keep hiring yes men? Are they actually putting their personnel out there? I don't know what goes on and what goes into the coaching decisions, but it doesn't seem like it's been very hard to out coach Mike McCarthy, given all the talent they've had on the offensive side of the football for years.
I agree with you 100%.
And let me a little cliff note on last week's game. I don't think there's a lot of people that walked out of that game with the expectation that they were going to win. They knew that we had a chance. It was a close game. I know there's some people disappointed, that they only put up 11 points, but putting it into perspective, they did have a chance, to win that football game. They were in the red zone a couple times and blew it. And San Francisco has possibly the best defense in the league. So I know and
a top 5 head coach who knows what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, so it's like if you take a field goal at some point, which you should have on that fourth down with a very close ball game, that could be a completely different ball game. And I know Sirianni's going to learn from that and wish that he had it back, but you move forward.
I got 2 locks this week.
Okay.
Locks, dead set locks.
Okay.
Dead set locks. That's not the Eagles winning this game outright because I think that's obvious. So
I don't think that's a lock. I'm confident it's not a lock for me. Go ahead,
bro. I've been rarely more confident in a Philadelphia Eagles win than this week, and I don't know why. I can't give you any statistical information to back it up. It's just a gut feeling. So my first lock is that Buffalo's line is way too light, and it should be the 10-point line we're going to talk about second. Buffalo is going to destroy the Washington football team. 10 or more, without question, in my mind, 10 or more.
Okay.
My second lock, I'm going to leave Tampa Bay and the Rams out because I said that in the comments of the last video that Tampa Bay was going to win by 17. I meant that, but we'll talk about a different game. We talked about this right before we came on. I don't care what team they're playing. 10 points is too much for the Denver Broncos to give up. There's no way the Jets don't cover this line. There's no way the Jets don't cover this line.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit before we came on, and it's the Jets are so bad that I wouldn't go ahead and bet it. And like I said, it's really a 7-point line, and the Broncos are going to get another 3, obviously, for being at home. But are they good enough to be giving anybody 10 points? Jerry Jeudy's out, I think, for this season, right?
Who knows? It doesn't matter. All these things that you're saying, I get, but the Denver Broncos, it's like John Elway hasn't been under center for 30 years, guys. The Denver Broncos have not been good enough to lay 10 points against any team in my fucking lifetime.
So there's a couple upsets that I'm looking at this week.
All right, what are your upsets?
And I'm talking about upsets based on the lines, not upsets based on, anything else. The New York Giants are not in a position to be giving points to anybody. It doesn't matter what team it is. And I know the Falcons are bad, but I know the Giants are at home. It just doesn't matter if I'm looking to make some money line bets. And I'll talk to Catching 3 about this because they might view this completely differently. They've been watching the spread for the last 3 hours, but I don't see how the Giants are in any position to be giving points to anybody.
Dude, the Falcons were in a game with the best team in the NFL up until the last minute last week. The Falcons win this game outright.
Yeah. And they got embarrassed in week 1, and I think that's just new coaching staff, uncertainty of Matt Ryan. They didn't go with a quarterback. They drafted. There's a lot
Pitts
wrong.
Might not be as good as we all thought he was.
Well, he's just not going to make a difference in your wins and losses. The other one is I'm looking at this Pittsburgh Steelers team is still worrisome. Ben Roethlisberger just looks as old as he did at the end of the year last year. The Bengals, to me, just don't look terrible, but they have enough offensively to kind of hang with teams. They're getting 2.5 points. There's a lot of injury. The Steelers are injured. TJ Watt's not playing. I mean, they're injured all over the defense. They have some injuries. Deontay Johnson.
Roethlisberger's still your quarterback.
Deontay Johnson. Roethlisberger can't throw it deep. Deontay Johnson's out. And you have to remember last year, The Bengals, on that little losing streak that Pittsburgh had, went into Pittsburgh and beat Pittsburgh with a backup quarterback without Joe Burrow. So to think that they can't go into Pittsburgh with Joe Burrow, with most of their team healthy, and Pittsburgh being riddled with injuries, I like that as a money line bet. That's just my perspective of it.
I don't disagree with you.
I'll talk to the catching three guys about it, and let's talk about the rest of these games here that I want to focus on. So we talked a little bit about this. We didn't give anything away. And again, after we do these picks, I think we're going to move into some shit that neither of us want to talk about, and we'll get to it. So the Ravens and the Lions in Detroit, and this line's moved since we discussed this just a half hour ago. So I think the public is starting to influence this line a little bit. So the Ravens are now giving 8 to the Detroit Lions. Who do you like in that game?
Well, 8 feels like too much because of all the positive things we just said about Detroit.
Yeah.
But you also know, as does everybody who's watched us talk, I'm not a fan of the Ravens team. I'm not a fan of Lamar Jackson. I don't think that John Harbaugh has it together anymore. I don't like the team. If the line was 4, 5, and solid, I would lean to a Baltimore's going to fucking wreck them this week.
Yeah.
But I've seen too much out of the Lions, man. 8 points is too much, I think. I think the Lions can keep this game within a touchdown. I don't think that that's too much to ask.
I completely agree. I've watched the Lions protect Jared Goff. I've watched TJ Hawkinson have good games. I watched Travis Kelce just destroy Baltimore's defense last week. I know that Baltimore's secondary is completely out of it right now. Marcus Peters is out. I think possibly for the year. They're on their third string running back that they have to now run options with Lamar Jackson. Lamar looks like he hasn't improved his throwing at all.
A little bit.
So I think the Lions can be competitive enough to cover that spread. I don't think obviously they're going to win outright, but I think at home this could be a 4 to 6 point game, and I like the Lions to cover that spread.
100% with you.
Arizona and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are at home and they're getting 8 points. I can start with this one because I was looking into it a little bit.
Okay.
And again, this is just statistical, not based on any other type of perception. So I watched my roommate Just is a huge Minnesota Vikings fan. So every Minnesota Vikings game that's been on, for the most part, I've watched it. They look like the Eagles looked last year. Like they should be better. They're losing close games. They have these mishaps at certain points in the game that become turning points and are ending up in losses. They should have beat Arizona last week, and they're not a good football team. Kyler Murray threw for 400 yards, but he threw 2 interceptions. A.J. Green got in the end zone. DeAndre Hopkins was kind of taken out of the game a little bit. And we talked last year. We were so high on Kyler coming into the game. He got off to this scorching hot start, and then the team just completely fell off and missed the playoffs. And I don't know if I've seen enough over the last 2 weeks to convince me that they're that much better. I know Chandler Jones played out of his mind in week 1. I know they have J.J. Watt over there. I know they added A.J. Green. I get it. But I think, again, this is a spread at home, and Jacksonville's terrible, so I hate to say this. I think Jacksonville can cover this spread, and I just don't think Arizona's quite as good as the public thinks that Arizona is. And I think at the end of the game,
6 points?
It's 8. So I think
points.
this is the type of game where it's like 24-10, and at the end of the game, Jacksonville just goes down and scores a touchdown.
Bro, I think exactly what we just talked about the last 8 point spread. I think 8 points is too many points, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think that there's the Jets are clearly the worst team in the league this year. Jacksonville and the Jets were kind of 1A and 1B last year. Jacksonville is better.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I don't know what it is, dude. I've seen it happen, obviously. We've watched it happen week in and week out for decades now. Picking a team to lose by a touchdown to anybody other than one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league is just a bad bet to make.
Right.
So, if I'm putting money down, man, I'm putting down money for Jacksonville to cover.
Are you convinced Arizona's the top 5 team right now?
No way. Not even a little bit.
There might be close, but I'm not going to put them there.
No, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. I'm 100% with you. It's too many points.
All right, so this is an interesting one, and I haven't looked into this much. The LA Chargers, who just barely lost to Dallas
I
last
love
week on the
Justin
last
Herbert.
second. Yeah, I do too. He makes some great throws, doesn't he? Playing the Chiefs in Arrowhead, giving a touchdown, 7 points.
They cover.
I think they cover too.
They cover.
Yeah,
It's a field goal
I think
game.
we could
They
skip
cover.
right over it, and the reason I think they cover is because I know what the Chiefs are offensively. I also know that sometimes the Chiefs don't care in the first half offensively, so they put up all those points in the second half. So I'm not looking for the Chiefs to jump out to, like, especially with Bosa rushing over there, for them to jump out to like this 21-point lead in the first half and the Chargers not be able to keep up. The Chiefs haven't shown me anything to show me that they're going to be able to stop Justin Herbert.
No.
So I like the game to be close enough, even with the over-under is 54.5 points, so everybody thinks there's going to be a lot of points in this game, and I'd agree. But I think that the Chargers can keep up with them enough to at least cover that spread, if not win the football game.
And you got an LA Chargers team with a young quarterback who's going to do shit to experiment around and help continue building continuity. What stops them from going for a fucking 2-point conversion when they're down fucking 7 points, and then it's a 6-point win? I think, again, I agree. I like Justin Herbert too much. I love Justin Herbert as a quarterback.
Saints, who we saw finally not finally, it's only the second game, but we saw the bad side of what Jameis Winston is after his LASIK surgery.
Not like we didn't see enough of that in fucking Tampa Bay.
It was bad. Some of those throws were terrible. So the Patriots, who look like an above-average team as of right now, are giving 3 points to the Saints in Foxborough.
That right up until in Foxborough, that was like the Saints are going to win this game. I don't know what the Patriots are.
Yeah.
I watched them play, and again, like you said, they're an above-average team, is what they seem like. I don't disagree with that, but if all of a sudden they ripped off 9 straight losses, I wouldn't be surprised, because I don't know what they are. They're a weird amalgamation of elite level old veteran players and then a bunch of kids that probably don't know how to fucking scheme a play yet. Mac Jones is I guess what I expected. Not a world beater, not great, but he's a guy that can fucking
efficient.
stand. Yeah, he can stand stone-footed in a pocket and throw 21 of 27, but he's only going to get 230 yards. He's not he doesn't have Devonta Smith there. He doesn't have a big.
He's not going to light the Saints defense up.
Right, and that Saints defense is still, regardless of how fucking terrible their offense became because they couldn't convince Drew Brees to play for another year, that defense is real down there, bro. It's real. I think that if I look at it on face value, this is a Patriots pick, but knowing what I know about New Orleans, what turmoil they're going through, what they have to play for, and the fact that Bill Belichick is going to coach in New England no matter what happens until the day he decides he doesn't want to anymore, I think the Saints might win this game outright. I pick the Saints personally, but I can understand both sides of the line.
If I see two teams that I think are about even, I'm going to pick the team getting the points, because I think the Saints can win the game outright. And I'm talking to the Catching Three guys the other day. You're going to see good and bad with Winston, right? He's going to have games where he throws 3 or 4 picks, and then he's going to have games where he throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and that's just what it's going to be.
He's the same guy that was in Tampa Bay. He's just wearing a different uniform. He's the same
dude. After last week, Sean Payton sits him down. He says, hey, you turn the ball over 2-3 times against the Patriots, we're not going to win the football game, but we have a really good chance to win it if you can just manage the game. So I think he goes in there. The play calling is a little more calm. They try to beef up the protection for him. He just made – when I watched him in Tampa Bay, he was throwing picks from clean pockets. Like he was just trying to – last week, he was just making awful decisions. Like he was getting dragged down for a sack and was throwing the ball 35 feet in the air.
Look at that elite ball placement.
I think Sean Payton's a good enough coach to be able to sit him down and say, hey, we're going to run the football a little more this week. Don't take the sack instead of throwing the ball up, and let's just go out and win the football game. The Patriots aren't going to be able to put up 24 points against the Saints, and the Saints can put up 30 very easily. I like the Saints even in Foxborough. I think Foxborough's a huge advantage at the end of the year when it starts getting cold, when you got to go up north. Not right now. Interesting game. Don't know what to make of any of these teams yet. Colts and Titans. And,
what is that line, 5?
It's 4.5.
4.5?
The Colts are getting 4.5.
And Carson Wentz is starting with 2 sprained ankles as of right now, right?
Which can play both ways with him, right? Because if he can't run, he can't try to do too much. So maybe he just drops back and throws a couple passes, and
what a stupid sentence I just said out loud. Carson Wentz is starting with 2 sprained ankles.
Yeah.
Listen, man, we talked about Ryan Tannehill last year as like a kind of a dark horse MVP guy because of how well he played. Now, the first couple of weeks, he hasn't been great. Week 1, him and Julio just did not get together. Week 2, Julio Jones puts up a shit ton of yards. I know because I sat him in my fantasy league.
Gets a TD taken away from him also.
Because I was like, this motherfucker is going to take 6 weeks to get to Ryan Tannehill. And then, of course, the first week I sit him, he scores fucking 26 in fantasy. But I digress. On paper, the Colts team is better than they are. But I know this out of personal experience. If Carson Wentz is your quarterback, you're not a good team. You're not a good team. He's not a good. I've gotten into so many arguments in the last couple of months with people about the Carson Wentz saga. Okay, if you want to talk about the mental fragility and how soft the kids are nowadays, and you really got to stroke some egos, we can have that conversation. But we have to get it back to the point that matters the most, and it's that Carson Wentz is not a good quarterback. Carson Wentz has not been a good quarterback. If you go back and look at that one anomaly season where he took them to 11-2 or whatever it was before he blew out his fucking knee, being an idiot, Carson Wentz has never been an elite decision maker.
Let's reminisce.
He's never been able to get rid of the ball fast. He's a bad quarterback.
And let's take the Super Bowl run season out for a second. When I watched some quarterbacks throw for 300 yards consistently, and it looks easy. The last couple years that I've watched Carson Wentz on the Eagles, he's thrown for 280, 300, 320 a couple times, but every single time it felt like pulling teeth. It's because he threw 38 passes, was 20 like 2 of them were big plays that he somehow got out of, and he made these ridiculous plays. And that's always that's what we're glued to, right? Because every week we see 1 or 2 plays and we're like, where is this guy that can extend plays, stay calm in the pocket, and then make an accurate pass? And he just hasn't done that over the last couple years.
Ever. Stop. Ever. He's not that guy. He's not a good quarterback.
And here's the thing with the Titans. I don't know what the Colts are yet. I know that they have talent on both sides of the ball. I know they're supposed to have a good offensive line, but I know Carson Wentz got hit 11 times last week. And the Titans know.
Is it better yet, buddy?
The Titans know who they are, right? They're going to hand the ball if all else fails and Tannehill's off and Julio's not winning his matchups for whatever reason.
They're going to give Derrick Henry the ball. He's going to run over everybody. Yeah.
So I like the Titans, even though I think 4.5 is with 2 teams I don't know much about right now. I know that the Titans know who they are. I know they can control the clock. I like a typical Carson Wentz game. Like their offense puts up 17 or 20 points, 27-20 type of game for them.
I see the Titans being able to win this game by a touchdown if they want to. It's who are the Titans?
And they're at home.
If they show up the way they should, I think it's a touchdown win for the Titans and they cover the line.
Yeah. We'll skip over Buffalo and Washington because I tend to agree with you. Buffalo had a bad game last week from Allen. He's going to come back. I think the defensive line for Washington is the only thing that could affect Josh Allen, and they haven't been very good this year.
Whoever has Josh Allen in fantasy, this motherfucker's going to score 40 this week.
Yeah, Buffalo's at home. We talked about Atlanta and New York. I think you'd probably tend to agree that New York shouldn't be giving anyone points, so maybe we should skip over that game.
Yeah, it's a dumb game to talk about.
Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, I briefly mentioned. I don't know if you feel the same way about that.
I'm with you, 100%.
Okay. So let's go to Chicago and Cleveland. The Bears are This is interesting.
The line's too big. The line's too big, bro. I got 7 in the screenshot you sent me. Even if it's 6.5 now, the line's too big. Chicago covers that line, no doubt.
Here's the interesting thing about this game. If you're Cleveland, how do you prepare for Justin Fields? You haven't really seen it yet. And I don't think people realize how fast he is. And here's the other thing. I think everybody agrees that he probably should have been starting from the beginning over Andy Dalton. They kind of wanted to groom him into the system, make sure he's comfortable. I don't think Mitch Trubisky had a good year under Matt Nagy. And he actually had 2 pretty good years under Matt Nagy, even though everybody hated Mitchell Trubisky. He made some bonehead plays. I've watched Justin Fields, regardless of how they think he's performing in practice, whether he has grasped the playbook. I've watched him when the lights go on. in the games just become the best player on the field. And I
Listen to
think,
me. I said this 1,000 times before we took our pause for the summer.
yeah,
There has not been a doubt in my mind that Justin Fields is the best quarterback in the draft class of last year. It's not close. I know everybody loves Trevor Lawrence, and I know that he's looked pretty good. I don't care what anybody tells me. Zach Wilson is Mitchell Trubisky. We're going to see it. That's why the Jets are still this shit terrible team they are. Justin Fields is a legitimate superstar quarterback potential player in this league. And Matt Nagy is a fortunate end for him, a guy that really is like he's not a quarterback guru, it's the wrong word to use, but a guy that really does develop unique offenses for the skill set that Justin Fields has. It wouldn't have gotten much better for him to go to a different guy. The Chicago Bears have the ability now with what they've got at a core to turn this franchise around. I know that Cleveland has been, for me, and what I know the Cleveland Browns to be, unbelievable the last 2 seasons. The turnaround that they've made. Baker Mayfield looks like an NFL quarterback. I don't want to take away from what Cleveland's done, but they're the Cleveland Browns. They're still who they are. You know, Myles Garrett's a great player, but Myles Garrett does get hurt now. He's got a history of injuries. There's too many question marks in Cleveland, and Justin Fields looks way too good for me to say, oh, yeah, the Bears will definitely lose by more than 7. I don't think so.
And here's another wrinkle to this. Like, the Cleveland Browns' identity, for the most part, even though they have 2 stud wide receivers, is to run the football,
like the
right? Yeah, because like Beckham barely plays and Landry's out for the year. So like, are you relying on Beckham to be the guy for you going into this game? He hasn't touched a football field in a year almost. Like,
right.
8 months at least. So you're expecting him to go be the number one. You're going to run the football. The Bears know what you're doing. Like, they know you're going to run the football. And then we got to come up for a game plan for a guy that we've never played before. How good? And everybody's got to remember, we can talk about running quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Justin Fields has an arm like Russell Wilson has an arm. He can throw the deep ball. So you're not going to play close to the line and think that he's not going to go over top of you.
Bro, I said this right before the draft. Justin Fields is the closest thing I've ever seen to Russell Wilson. Yeah. He's the closest thing I've seen come out of college to Russell Wilson.
So let's skip over the Jets game and even the Miami game, because I want to get to the Ben Simmons thing, and I want to talk about this Tampa Bay and Rams game real quick and ask you how real is this Rams team? And
they're real, but they're not Tampa Bay, bro. I said this in the comments for anybody who didn't see it. Aaron did put it up, which I appreciate. Put in a little John down there where you could see it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win this game by 17 or more. This is I have no proof I can hand you. I can't say this is what I saw last week or this is what I saw last year. Matt Stafford's a much better quarterback than Jared Goff. That team is massively improved with him at the helm. There's no doubt. Listen, bro, until Tom Brady starts losing football games, Tom Brady ain't losing football games. I'm sorry.
I agree. I can understand the hype surrounding the Rams, and I think the hype's going to get bigger throughout the year when towards the end of the year they've played together for 10 games. But everybody has to remember real quick, it's still Tom Brady. They're going into LA, which is not a huge home field advantage in any situation. Their whole team has been together for 2 years now, and you're plugging Stafford into something I know he's putting up great numbers, but he's still in a new offense with new pieces everywhere.
Yeah, you can see the kinks.
So Tampa Bay, I think this is a prove-it game for them, and they're going to make sure, and Tom Brady's going to make sure everyone's focused this week, because I know everyone's looking past this game because he's going back to Foxborough next week and playing the Patriots and has a chance to break that record. I think he might throw for 350 yards against the Rams. That's going to be dependent on how well Aaron Donald plays and how well the line blocks against Aaron Donald and how well Jalen Ramsey plays on the outside against guys like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Antonio Brown's out. Doesn't really affect it that much. He really is. As great as he's been the first 2 games, he's still the wide receiver 3 technically on that team. Scotty Miller will plug in just fine. Gronk's still there. They got to get the run game going a little bit. They're going to be fine. I like Tampa Bay to cover the spread.
No doubt.
We agree more on this week than I think we've ever agreed, by the way.
It's like almost like we grew up and became adults together, buddy. So crazy. I got to talk about the Sixers now. I have to get this. I need you to let me get this out, and then you can dissect it with whatever you think is wrong. You're going to think some is wrong. But this is the way I see it. It's the only way I can see it.
What kind of show would this be if by the way, I'm not going to say it out loud because everybody's got to figure it out for themselves. I just got texted an hour and 15 minutes before the start of week 3. Catching 3 has sent me their premium plays. So the plays that they're not sharing with anybody publicly and they're very, very confident about. And what I'll say is
we're right.
Well, I'll tell everybody after this. Go ahead with your Ben Simmons.
So listen, so it's not just Ben Simmons. This is a greater Philadelphia 76ers problem, okay? As you know, I drive a long way to work. My drive to work is like 68 or 69 miles. It's a little over an hour each way. I have a lot of time in the car to listen to sports radio, to just listen to the fucking wind through the window, and I really think about a lot of the shit that's going on in this city. The Philadelphia 76ers, I believe, are faced with a split in the road that only goes one of two ways. There's only two ways out of what they're in right now. Obviously, if you get a team, I don't like to use the word desperate enough because if you're desperate for Ben Simmons, you're probably a bad basketball team. Sure. But desperate enough for Ben Simmons. Or dumb enough, right? Which I think we can get past it. There's no NBA GM right now dumb enough to just kick over to what Daryl Morey's asking for.
Sure.
So one of two ways. You get into the season, he sits, a star player gets hurt, gets pissed off, Zach LaVine doesn't like what Chicago did, Bradley Beal's mad that all of his friends left Washington, and you luck into a situation where you have the best piece to move.
Yeah.
Or, and this is the or, and I don't think that there's two ways to do this. I think this is the only other option. If Daryl Morey's coming to Philadelphia was to create a dynasty like he attempted to do in Houston, a lot of things have to happen. And the first one is Doc Rivers is not going to be the head coach. Sam Cassell is a guy that players will die for. Doc Rivers is not. I know you're in North Carolina. I know you were just up here a few days ago. I don't know if it coincided with the time you were here. But Doc Rivers has gone on this national media tour of he never said that Ben Simmons can't be a point guard, which I was fucking there.
Didn't he say, I don't know? I don't know the answer.
The question was, can Ben Simmons be the point guard of an NBA championship team? Yeah. And he said, I'll be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that question. If you didn't say yes, you said no, dog. Right. We're all grown-ups, man. Don't try to fucking ice over it. So Doc Rivers has got to go. That is a very small microcosm of my point. Doc Rivers is not the right head coach for this basketball team. Now, here is road B, right? You fail trying to move Ben for the superstar you want. I don't see a world that exists where you can, without a superstar for Ben Simmons, create a championship team around Joel Embiid before your window closes. Joel Embiid's window, in the greatest situation, if every single thing went right, is 4, maybe 5 years from today.
That's generous.
What we can assume to be there is 3. I think reasonably, we've got 3 full seasons of peak Joel Embiid. If you piece together some bullshit for Ben Simmons this year, that's year 1 gone. Because of the shit you're piecing together with Ben Simmons, you're going to have to take money back for that fucking contract. And we know that Daryl Morey is a guy that will take on bad contracts. If you don't open up enough cap room next year, then you've got year 2 wasted as you try to fucking waste through these bad contracts. And then maybe, just maybe, one superstar player likes Joel Embiid enough, wants to come in year 3, we win 1 chip with Joe, and it's the fucking, the ride's over, which I refuse to accept. Therefore, it's necessary. I'm saying it today. I'm on the record on the 26th of September. If you could find a way to build a 50-plus win basketball team right now with fresh pieces, and it took Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid going in different directions. I called you the other day and I told you if you could get Zion and Brandon Ingram for Joel Embiid and you could move fucking Ben Simmons for Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, obviously that you're a championship contender today. But if you still have to take a B-level group of players for Ben Simmons, if you have to take a Buddy Hield and a pick, if you have to take a fucking John Wall and a pick, you having Zion and Brandon Ingram, who are young enough and healthy enough to build the core outwards while you still have Tobias Harris, I think you have to trade both of them. If you don't get a superstar by the trade deadline this season for Ben Simmons, you have to move on from Joel Embiid.
I hear what you're saying. I disagreed with it, and we talked about it. We don't need to get into every detail as to why I disagreed with it. It's mainly because there's not another big in the league outside of Jokic as skilled, and you can go to in the fourth quarter with the game on the line. And if he gets fouled, it doesn't matter because he's probably going to make his free throws. I think for me, that's what it comes down to. There's only a couple of those guys in the league, coupled with the fact that he could every year be the defensive player of the year. So if I'm getting rid of Ben Simmons, I can understand where you're going with the point, but I'm not getting rid of 2 first-team all-defensive team to try to build up just an offense. Because if we remember correctly, over the last decade, every team outside of a LeBron James championship team, and that doesn't even include his years in Miami because they were a top defensive team. He was a defensive player of the year candidate every year when he was in Miami. All of those teams that won championships, except for the Cavs team, was a top 2 or 3 defensive team. So if I'm getting rid of Joel Embiid and I'm getting rid of Ben Simmons, I'm basically out of championship contention unless I literally have LeBron James, Steph Curry, just the best player in there, Giannis Antetokounmpo, whatever the case might be. So I'm out on that. But we're waiting.
So then tell me, though, I need you to tell me before you move on past that. What are you going to use Ben Simmons to acquire? Now, we talked about this. Yeah. I do want to say this out loud. I believe, and I think you're on the same page as me, I think Tyrese Maxey is a budding superstar. I think Tyrese Maxey has the ability, if he accomplishes his ceiling, to be a top 5 to a top 7 point guard in the NBA. I think he could do it. How many years does that take till he reaches that potential successfully and consistently? And what the fuck are you using Ben Simmons to get that's going to keep you in contention while you hold on to Joel Embiid? Is Tobias Harris your trade piece?
But here's the thing. Morey's sitting there right now, and he's waiting for someone to offer him a superstar. You're overvaluing Ben Simmons.
For sure.
Right? I mean, he's a defensive player of the year candidate. Fine. Go get another first-team all-defensive player back for him so you don't lose much. Get a guy that can shoot a three-point shot. I don't care if you're giving me a second-team all-defensive playing wing in the league, and you want to move Maxey to the starting point guard, you have Shake back there to back him up, and I have a 3-and-D all-defensive player, I feel like I'm ahead. Because
Who's that guy?
I don't know. I gotta look at the defensive rankings for the league. I mean, but I'm happy to do that if I'm getting that and some picks. Like, I don't need a superstar because we're overvaluing Ben Simmons. He's not a superstar. He's an all-star. Barely. He's barely an all-star.
Yeah. So, right? So you mentioned John Wall to me a couple days ago, and I hate the idea because the contract is the worst in sports. That's why it's a bad idea.
Let me tell everybody why I mentioned John Wall to you.
But I don't disagree with you. I think you could take John Wall and you're improved for sure while he's healthy, especially because you got guys like Maxey and Thibault and guys that can play with him. If you were to get a John Wall centered, get that contract out of Houston guy, if I got Christian Wood and 1 or 2 unprotected ones that I know are going to be top 5 picks, I'd be in on it because I can have Tobias Harris play the 3 who can defend, and I have Christian Wood be my stretch big. I can make that happen. But unless it's a package like that, what else can you get?
But my comment to you, too, and I was looking at when it was initially reported that John Wall was going to report to camp, do things the right way, and he wanted out of Houston, I just assumed at that time, because of how big his contract is, that Houston's in full rebuild mode, and they're going to buy out his contract and just let him go somewhere else. So my whole point to you when I initially mentioned this scenario was, if I'm Daryl Morey and I have no bargaining chip right now, I'm literally trying to bluff my way through a no limit poker game that with pros everywhere. That's what he's trying to do, and it's just not working. So if you got a buyout of a John Wall and we're able to get him for $10 million for 1 year, or even 20 over 2, you can sit Ben Simmons on the bench and just fine him until he plays.
Sure, because you had John Wall.
That was, and you're going to have John Wall even
if you have to take the contract, which you're going to have to, obviously. If you have John Wall, Christian Wood, and 2 unprotected ones, and even if it cost me let's say it cost me a couple of bench guys like Furkan and Paul Reed with Ben Simmons, whatever youth they wanted. I make that move. Christian Wood is a guy that can play the starting 4, back up the 5 if need be. You also have Andre Drummond that can play in both spots, but Christian Wood can stretch the floor from both positions. Tobias Harris can play the 3 and the 4. You have Seth Curry and you have Shake for your 2s, because I really think Shake is more of a 2 than a 1. And I think given the opportunity with that type of cast around him, Tyrese Maxey can be and please, for the love of God, you said Tom Brady a couple minutes ago about a guy you shouldn't have, like a Damian Lillard's play type. His job when the ball's in his hands is to score. That's what Damian Lillard does. He's not an elite passer. He's not an elite playmaker. He's
got to improve his shot.
But that's the type of, But dude, what have you seen? I watched him break his shot, start a new form, and create a shot in season. As a fucking rookie.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I can see those things happening around all of this noise. Imagine being that guy, bro, who's also represented by Clutch, while your fucking superstar of your team is in a fucking standoff with the agent that represents you and the team you also play for. And this kid's just going to work, bro.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for what Tyrese Maxey could be, and I think that's the crux.
And guess what? If you can put an Eric Gordon or a Christian Wood and a couple first rounders, and you know that Houston's rebuilding, you win in multiple ways. First, if you have unprotected picks, they're going to be a bottom 5 team for the next. They are going to be a bottom 5 team for the next 2 or 3 years. For sure. And you're taking their 2 best players out of it, and all you're giving them is a guy that can distribute the ball. Plus, in return, I don't know if you know this, John Wall is not by any means the best perimeter defender in the league, but he leads all active point guards in blocks. Like, that dude can defend. And if you're getting a guy like Wood or Eric Gordon back, both those guys can defend as well. So you're not losing much in what you look at for Ben Simmons to be. You have defenders all over the place.
And then you get those picks, which are the huge part. I mean, again, I think this gets slept on. I'm hearing a lot of Daryl Morey hate over the last couple of weeks because this Ben Simmons shit. And I know that it's easy to sit back and say, oh, well, he knew this was coming. He didn't pull the trigger before it went public and blah, blah, blah. Daryl Morey didn't know that Ben Simmons was going to threaten to sit out and take fines. Nobody thought it was going to get there. And Daryl Morey, with what he has accomplished, getting out of the Al Horford contract, turning fucking Josh Richardson into Seth Curry, acquiring Danny Green, the things that he was able to build and put the pieces together for a coaching staff that was assembled before him. A lot of people forget this. Doc Rivers was not Daryl Morey's hire. Doc Rivers was the head coach of this basketball team for a couple of weeks before Daryl Morey came on board. Yeah. And I think that we are looking at how hamstrung this team is, because I do believe Doc Rivers now is an overrated coach. I saw a year of it in front of my face day to day. I watched him in Boston, but they were a rival. You wanted him to fail. Yeah. Doc Rivers is not the head coach he thinks he is. He's not one of these. He's not a Greg Popovich. He's not a fucking Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah, I told you what he was.
He is an average coach. Tomlin. He's an average coach. That Mike Tomlin won 2, though, bro. Like, you got to give Mikey T that.
He did 1.
No, I'm pretty sure Tomlin has 2. I just watched Pat McAfee the other day say something about 2-time Super Bowl winning head coach. I don't know. Anyway, regardless, my point is that Doc Rivers is not the guy. And Daryl Morey knows this. And if I have to think about, is Daryl Morey going to help me, I really do myself have to separate the Houston Daryl Morey, who thought it was a good idea to trade away Clint Capella and go fucking 6'6" or smaller in all 5 positions. I have to compartmentalize the Houston Daryl Morey and look at what Daryl Morey's done since he's come to a team with a big. You know, I think that's why Daryl Morey made those decisions in Houston. He didn't have Joel Embiid. And if you don't have Embiid or Jokic, I'm sorry, bro. There's no other big Anthony Davis.
Everybody was revolving around him keeping James Harden there.
Right, and with you don't have those 2 guys, and I'll put Anthony Davis in that mix, kind of, who I also believe I'm starting to see now is not only injury prone, but Anthony Davis might be one of the more overrated players we've had in a long time.
I agree.
In a long time. I think Chris Paul level overrated. Now, of course, I love Chris Paul today, but we're not going to get into that argument. Other than Jokic and Embiid, there's not 2 bigs in the league that you can build around. And I think that is what attracted Daryl Morey here. He went the guard way, bro. He had fucking Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul and every fucking guard you could imagine to play around James Harden, tried the small ball way. And when he's looking for a gig, he goes to the best big in the league. I know Jokic gets that because he won a fake fucking MVP award. There's no question if you watch basketball, Joel Embiid's a better basketball player than Nikola Jokic.
Yeah,
period.
Of course.
Because of what he came for, I have to allow Daryl Morey to figure out this bullish shit that he walked into.
I think he will, and we're all getting antsy because we want to see what the team's going to look like. He's not antsy; he's just looking to win the trade, and he'll do the right thing at some point.
And we talked about this the other day. I think there's trades that came and went that were winner trades. I think Malcolm Brogdon in the 11th pick or whatever the fuck that one was a winner. I think Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, and number 9 was a winner.
I think the Timberwolves package was nice too.
Well, and I think we talked about this the other day. I really believe that is the team that this falls down to. I think this is a Minnesota-Philadelphia trade, and what they're trying to work out is Minnesota, that is, what player are we building around? Is it D'Angelo Russell or is it Anthony Edwards? Because Minnesota doesn't mind giving up one of those guys because Cat is their first dude. And if you can get a package around either of those players, there's a lot of hate in Philadelphia sports radio for D'Angelo Russell, and I get it. He's a shitty teammate. He's a weird cat. But that motherfucker can put the ball in the basket, bro. What haven't we had since we got better from the process is a fucking guy that can score the ball.
By the way, closing thoughts. Be happy, first of all, because this is going to come into play with these trades, okay? Be happy that there was no package put together for Andrew Wiggins, because I don't know what mandates are going to be in certain cities at some point this winter. And Kyrie. So guess what? And this is the thing. Kyrie is stubborn enough to retire before he goes and gets that shot. I will guarantee you Kyrie is not getting that shot, okay?
No,
I guarantee it. So guess what? They're going to make the playoffs. And in the playoffs, if they're going to be the 3rd seed maybe without Kyrie for half the season, maybe, right?
Probably.
So in the playoffs, they're going to have to play all of their home games without Kyrie Irving. And if they happen to make the finals by some miracle because KD and Harden just have these elite seasons, and let's say a team like the Lakers, the Golden State Warriors still have those mandates in effect, and now they have to play an NBA Finals against those teams, and he can't play on either coast because both of them have mandates.
I think what's going on, like you said to me the other day, Adam Silver is going to get involved with Ben Simmons and make him fucking play. Yeah. Adam Silver is going to make a mandate that if you want to be an NBA basketball player, you have to get a vaccine. Yeah. He has the ability. I think the reason why he hasn't is because it's still a little controversial. We just got the news 5 to 11-year-olds are approved to get the vaccines. My kids are going to get vaccinated. Once this shit is all FDA approved, bro, they're going to make it mandatory.
Yeah, it's hard to do it in a huge money making business like the NBA, because you might have class action lawsuits amongst players going after the league. Not that the league can't afford to do that, but you start tiptoeing a weird line when you mandate it in big business like that. But we'll get to that.
You know how they make it. They don't make. Adam Silver won't come out and mandate it. What Adam Silver will do is he'll talk to each owner.
Make it impossible. Yeah.
He'll talk to each owner and say, listen. Let's give you a 4.5% boost this quarter. We're going to give you a little bit of money, and you're going to make your building. You're going to make your building mandatory to come in with vaccinations. That's it.
The stars playing is what's best for the league and their money. So
yeah, but all the stars are doing the right thing except for this motherfucking retard Kyrie, because he's the dumbest guy I've ever seen.
Yeah. A lot of stuff going on in his head. We'll be back with you guys sometime this week. We'll get a clear schedule of the next couple of days. If you haven't signed up with Catching 3, who's been winning at 70% so far on college and NFL football, I would advise doing so. I just got some premium picks that actually surprised me a little bit, but may not surprise you guys. The premium plays are what they consider the closest thing to their locks. So they don't pick these unless they're very confident about the games. I got 5 from them this week. Sometimes they only give me 2 or 3 because they're only confident in a couple games. So they're not just throwing 5 games out because they think some type of way. They're throwing 5 games out because they're very confident. So you can make a lot of money with them this week. We'll be back later. Justin, thanks. Good to be back with you, bud.
Absolutely, bro. I look forward to doing it, man.
We'll talk throughout the week, and we'll download this episode, get it up on all streaming platforms, and see you guys then.
All right, bro.